All right, Jonathan, I make about $8,000 a month.
Way to go.
Yeah, and I think I want to buy a house, but how much of a mortgage can I get?
That's a great question. That's what this video is all about. So often in truth, the answer could be zero, depending on how much debt you have.
Well, good news is, in this scenario that we're going to do today, I don't have too much. I have some, but not too much. So,
Perfect.
walk me through, how do lenders look at my situation to help determine what I would be qualified to borrow?
Absolutely. Whenever you're getting pre-qualified for a mortgage, you're reaching out to a trusted loan officer like us or our team. One of the questions you're asking is, how much do I qualify to borrow? Because ultimately, that determines how much you can purchase. And whenever we're going to look at your file, get your loan application, get all your income docs, pull your credit report, what we're trying to calculate is your debt to income ratio.
That's right. Also known as DTI. So if you're talking to somebody in the industry, a realtor or someone, that's what we use. That's our common vernacular around town, around the industry for what you qualify for. So we're always focused on that debt to income ratio. That is your purchasing power. So let's jump into it. As far as income goes, are we looking at post-tax, pre-tax? What part, if I make $8,000 a month, how much of that are you using?
So we're using your pre-tax or your gross amount. So before 401k, before the IRS, before anybody gets their sliver, what's your gross income is what we're going off of. And most borrowers actually think it's take home or post-tax, but we go off pre-tax.
That's right. That's a common misconception we get when people are filling out the online application. A lot of times they're giving us their take-home income, but what we want to see, if you're a W-2 employee and you get things taken out of your payroll, we want to see what that gross dollar amount is. And so in my scenario today, $8,000 a month. So here we go. What's next?
So obviously debt to income ratio, right? So let's start figuring out your debt situation, and we call it your liabilities or debt, whatever that is. But when we're trying to figure out what your debt to income ratio is, we're taking into account all your current liabilities.
Right.
So you might have student loans, you might have a car payment, you might have some credit cards, you might carry a balance. All those things are fine. It's just how much does it affect your ability to borrow and your ability to purchase. So we need to figure out all your non-housing current liability debt, which a credit report beautifully provides for us.
Yes, it does. So in my situation, we're just going to assume that I've got $1,000 of non-housing debt. So we're not talking your other bills like your phone bill or your utility bills or anything like that. Well, we're strictly talking, or your gym membership. We're not looking at your bills. We're looking at your debt. Right?
Absolutely.
So
people you owe money to.
That's right.
Whether it's revolving or installment debt. The next part of the liabilities we want to talk about is not your current liability, Austin, but your future liability. You're coming to us because you're about to buy a house, and there's a lot of things that go into owning a house and having a mortgage. So let's figure out that housing debt calculation.
Right. And so in order to figure out how much can go into the housing debt, we work off of what we call the 43% debt to income ratio. And so if you don't like math, don't worry. This is really easy. All you need to do is take that income number, that $8,000 a month, multiply that on your calculator times 0.43. And what that's going to give us is the calculation that we see on the slide, $3,440 a month. So that is the amount of my income that can get tied up with my debts.
That's right.
So our total debt can't exceed that amount. So that's going to include my current non-housing debts, which we said were $1,000, and then everything else can fall into that. And so when we're looking at what you can afford, that's the way the math works. We calculate $8,000 times 0.43 gives us $3,440 in this scenario, minus the $1,000 of non-housing debt leaves us with how much?
$2,440.
There we go, which is a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, so that's how much your housing cost could be for owning a house, is $2,440.
Yep. So let's break down the last piece of that, Jonathan. What all goes into that housing amount?
Yeah, the biggest one is you're borrowing money, right? So we're familiar, like I'm taking out a loan. So any loan with an interest rate has principal and interest payments. And then the second thing, you're owning a house. So in Texas, we don't have income taxes from a state standpoint, but we do have property taxes.
It's true.
And those can be a pretty substantial part of your monthly payment. And the third thing you're going to have is insurance. You're going to have hazard insurance, might have flood insurance. So owning a home, you want to make sure your house is properly insured. And that's going to be another payment you're going to have. And then there's two things that might be applicable. You could have a house that's in a home owner, like a property owners association or HOA. And then if you're putting down less than 20% on most of our programs, you're going to be having some type of mortgage insurance or PMI.
That's right.
So there's a lot of things that go into that monthly housing payment.
Yep. I was even talking with somebody recently in College Station who was telling me that his property taxes are more expensive than his mortgage payment. And so depending on where you're buying, this amount of money will get you either a lot more or a lot less. Condos, another good example. Those tend to have really
Big maintenance
expensive
fees,
homeowners association fees or condo association fees. And so it's imperative that even though once we know what your number is that you can borrow, we need to make sure that we're looking at it from a property to property standpoint.
Absolutely.
So, just to recap for you guys real quick, we're going to run back through the way the ratio works. So income, you're going to calculate it how, Jonathan?
Monthly.
Beautiful.
Gross.
Then we're going to multiply it by what?
0.43.
Bingo. Then we're going to calculate the liabilities. How are we calculating those?
Your monthly payments on your liabilities.
Exactly. And we're going to subtract that from our previous calculation on the income times 0.43. And that gives us our total allowable housing debt. That, y'all, is how lenders look at your income, look at your liabilities to figure out how much they are going to be willing to let you borrow. And so, as we said previously, that 0.43, that varies on the programs. Some will allow more, some allow less, but it's a good guideline when you're just trying to figure out a baseline for what you will qualify for. If you have any questions, you know how to reach us. And remember, we're here to help keep mortgages simple for you. We'll see you next time. Adios. Woo!